Let's go, my beautiful bar rats. Good evening. It is Thursday, the 20th of February, 2025. I am your host, Rick Barrett of the Rickcast. Yes, very, very creative, I know. And I am very pleased to have you in here. Who am I? Well, I'm the host of said Rickcast. I am the founder of the only Catholic pro 2A organization in these United States. I'm an author of a book, The Armed Catholic, The Catholic Case for Guns and Self-Defense, and I'm overall a pretty swell guy. But thank you for hanging out with me, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot to talk about this evening. We're kind of getting boxed around because we have CPAC going on. Another get together where they all pat themselves on the back and pretend like they actually saved democracy or whatever the case may be. Trump had an event at the White House for Black History Month. The USA Canada hockey game is taking place tonight, so lots of people are getting together and celebrating that, and that's fine. So we are here to talk about some stuff and some things. This is not a news show. We talk about news topics. I wouldn't even call this a pundit show. It's kind of just more of a hangout session to have you folks tell me your thoughts on these topics of the day. Consider it like the water cooler, back when people used to hang around the water cooler. So let's see what we have. I got a couple hot topics for you, hot takes that you're going to enjoy. The IRS there's more momentum to getting rid of the IRS. Elon Musk is having some spats with some astronauts, which is always lots of fun. And the TSA may be shuttering as well, or at least getting rid of many employees, which makes me happy. And then we're going to obviously talk about Kash Patel. The final member of the cabinet has been secured. Let's see how long before he releases the Epstein list, or Glenn Beck will, cry again. Mitch McConnell has decided at the youthful age of 83, I think it is, that it's time for him to step down. Amazon has finally won the rights battle with the people who own the media rights, the movie rights to James Bond. It's terrible if you ask me, but whatever, it is what it is. And then finally, just kind of, to step off the day, little shock, if you will, that the Tesla Cybertruck, the greatest Matchbox toy that costs $110,000, which I still secretly like. I know people give me crap about it, and I still like them. I like what I like. I'm sorry. I know it's ugly. Got 5-star crash rating, which I say it's a big steel box. So how could it not? And of course, anything else that comes up, and your commentary as well, ladies and gentlemen. So it is up to you to spice this show up by leaving your comments in the comment section down below. And if you're watching, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Help this show grow, because we don't have any help, because we be talking about stuff in ways that is politically incorrect, that people don't really like, and I like all of that as well. And it looks like because you guys are here, you make it possible. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that aside, let us get to the first story, our first of our three. We have 3 hot takes for you on this beautiful Thursday evening. 5-star bomb rating too. It's a 10. It's a perfect 10. All right. First story of the evening comes to us from the gambling website Cashy. According to Trump's Secretary of Commerce, Trump's goal is to abolish the IRS. Now, right now, Cashy, which is an online gambling website, has it at about 10%. But to eliminate the IRS, I know they're getting rid of like 6,000 agents right now. But to really just get rid of it would be amazing. It would be something that I just don't know if we would be able to recover from the amazingness that is not having to pay taxes anymore. Of course, I'm sure they'd find another way to steal our money. But at least in the short term, I don't know how you can hate it. Will this happen? I don't know. Is it the fact that it's being discussed? I like it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I don't have anything else on that. Simply because it's more of a rumor and conjecture and people kind of trying to will it into existence. No, I'm fine with that. We should absolutely want the IRS defunded, disbanded, the employees scattered to the wind safely, of course, in a non-violent way. So that way you and I can actually keep whatever little hard-earned money we actually, earn. So nothing concrete at this point, just rumors and conjecture. But fun rumors and conjecture, because imagine life without the IRS. It would be amazing. Let me think. What would you do with the extra money from the IRS? I know I would probably buy more stupid stuff. So, yeah. Oh, we actually got a thumbs up from Facebook. Hey, look, we're growing every day. What's up, Phil? Person who gave us the thumbs up on Facebook. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was our first hot topic. Let's get to our second one, which I think is a little bit more. We're gonna, in Pope Watch. What is this? Day 4 of Pope Watch. A little interesting development that comes to us from the Telegraph. Now, this could just be as a result of people trying to fill the time between Pope Francis either being declared as gone to our Lord or being released from the hospital. Everybody's kind of just playing the game at this point. Hell, we did the first night by talking about, hey, look at the College of Cardinals setup, and this is what it would look like, yada, yada, yada. And I made the declaration, probably why this is being talked about now, that popes don't retire. And so now, apparently, Pope Francis could retire. Because why not? If you listen to my old show, it isn't the first time that I've made a prediction and been completely wrong. If you want, I'm kind of like the Mad Money guy. If you want to see how a prediction is going, whichever way I say it's going to go the completely opposite way. Just bet on that. So there you go on that. Pope Francis could resign over ill health, says Cardinal. This was released today. Pope Francis could resign over ill health, says Italian Cardinal. Cardinal Gianfranco Ravizzi, the former head of the Vatican Department of Cultural Affairs, raised the possibility of the 88-year-old pontiff spent his 6th day in the hospital battling pneumonia in both lungs. He said the Pope has always been decisive and hinted that he might voluntarily step down as the head of the Roman Catholic Church if his health restricted his abilities to fulfill his duties. The Cardinal said the Pope has a tendency to fight, but if he was no longer able to communicate in an immediate, incisive and decisive way, weird way to say that, he may consider resigning. There might be a little bit of a translation issue there. I think he could do it because he is a person who is quite decisive in his choices, the Cardinal said in an interview with Italian radio network RTL on Thursday. Quote, he's always had the tendency to fight and react, and that is a legitimate choice too, because he has been able to handle trips in very difficult and challenging conditions like the one to the Far East. However, there's no question that if he has found himself in a situation where he was compromised in his ability to have direct contact, as he loves to be able to communicate in an immediate, inclusive, and decisive way. Once again, really weird. I believe he might consider retiring. I don't really know if that's a good idea. I didn't like it when Pope Benedict resigned. I don't like the idea that the Pope resigning and living out the days, because then you have dual popes, and then the idea of having dual popes, even though one's retired, there's still a cult of personality that follows that one, much like with Pope Benedict. That's why the Catholic Church has always kind of been of the mindset that you stay until you die, essentially, much like a monarch. I'm not saying the Pope is a king, but it's much like a monarch in that regard. And some people are thinking that he's too entrenched with power to resign and too stubborn to give up. Maybe. It's all a lead trial balloon. When something happens with the Vatican, they have to call dire Pope Francis health scare. The USCCB just sued Trump. Liz York keeps talking about Doge and the Catholic Church. All right, so you think this might be a distraction technique? Yes, but that's my big thing. It sets a bad precedent if you have Benedict resign and then you have Pope Francis resign. I'd rather him just stick it out. Because from everything that's saying, they haven't given specifics on his health, but he's still in the hospital and he's still recovering, and and everything seems to be going in a positive direction. The more likely outcome from this is just, once again, as somebody said, I think it was Mendez said correctly, is a trial balloon to see if this is something that the public would like. I hope the public pushes back and says, nope, we want Pope Francis to stay, because especially the standard of having multiple popes alive and walking around is not good for the faith. It's not good for the church. And the fact of the matter is, with this, it'll be a case where he just goes to the hospital more and more and more. I mean, the guy's 88. And this isn't just about Pope Francis. This is my life. The way I look at and the way I approach death in this regard. And this is from a guy who lost both my parents around the age of 60. They both died in their 60s. My father's anniversary of his death was the 13th, a couple days ago, 16 years. My mom died a year before that. She was 59. He was 60. And so the way I've always looked at it is, if you get to 80, if you get to the year, 80 years of age, anything past that is usually a bonus. And obviously, when anybody dies, it's sad. They move on from this earthly plane. But if you make it to the age of 80 and you can get to a place where you receive our Lord and you're in a state of grace, you can't ask for anything better than that. There's, as you go through life and you meet so many people who you're like, oh man, my buddy died, he was like 25, or my buddy died, he was like 33, or you see these people, this person died at, 39. You realize how much of a gift it is to get to old age. I know a lot of people freak out and they get worried about it. But it is also a gift in that regard. And, the Holy Father is 2 years away from being 90. So whatever happens, I just hope that he stays in a state of grace. Hopefully he uses this as a wake-up call, right? You never know with these kinds of things. But this is now the rumor that's being floated out, as some people in our chat on YouTube, and you can join, please, at youtube.com, or if you're on Rumble, jump in and let me know what you're thinking in the chat as well. Hell, if you guys are on X, let me know what you're thinking, because it'll jump up on StreamYard as well. Let me know what your thoughts are on the idea of Pope Francis resigning. Should he do it? Should he not do it? I don't know. It's kind of crazy. It's a very interesting point, Michael, that he's resigning at the same time it's all coming out that USAID had a pretty serious role in the last conclave and so forth. And yeah, it would be interesting to see how that would move going forward. So, like I said, folks, let me know what you think in the comment section down below, as we are on day 6 of Pope Watch. All right, folks, this is Rick Cass. I'm the aforementioned Rick. Keep the conversation going in the YouTube chat and on Rumble and on X as well. If you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, do all the things to help this show grow. And yeah, let's move on to our next story. From NBC News, our last hot take: astronaut versus Musk. Public spat ensues over claims that politics delayed a flight to Earth. Excuse me. Got to get a little agua. Sorry. Elon Musk and European astronauts Andreas Magalhães exchanged barbs online after Musk suggested in a recent interview that 2 NASA astronauts were left on the International Space Station for political reasons. One moment. There we go. The public spat on X came in response to remarks Musk made during a pre-taped joint interview with President Donald Trump that aired on Tuesday on Fox News. The pair was asked about NASA astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, great name by the way, who had been on the space station for the past 8 months after their Boeing spacecraft ran into problems on its first crewed flight. Then again, they were probably like, it's a Boeing plane, so we'll just stay up here until, y'all figure your stuff out, because the last thing I'd want to do is step on a Boeing airliner right now. By the way, funny stat, the only plane to not have any kind of malfunctions or incidences during its flights this year is Spirit Airlines. So there you go. They were left up there for political reasons, Musk said, insinuating that the Biden administration chose to keep the astronauts in space for longer than necessary. Mogzen, who in 2015 became the first Danish citizen to fly in space. Really? It took the Danish till 2015 to get into space? Okay. Took aim at Musk's unsupported claims, posting, "What a lie," and from someone who complains about the lack of honesty from the mainstream media. And there he is. "Look, I'm Danish. Thumbs up. I'm going to bring the kolaches." Things quickly turned ugly, with Musk calling Mogzen an idiot and using a derogatory term. I love it. I don't like Elon Musk for anything. Yay Doge, yay this stuff, that stuff. He does some fun things. He does a lot of bad things. But the fact when you have blank you money, you can pretty much just tell everybody to blank off like he did to the Disney CEO that one time. Go blank yourself. You know what? You were up in space. How dare you? Right? Where's Steve Cunningham with Greta Thunberg when I need her? How dare you? You know what? Go blank yourself. Your space program's terrible. It took you 2015 to get into space. So I don't really need your opinion on that regard. But it is kind of funny. Hey, this guy should actually be thanking Elon Musk because I didn't even know this Danish guy went into space. So congratulations, dude. I know I'm like 10 years too late, but good for you. Yeah, they all start to sound Indian after a while. Because let's be honest, they all get rerouted that way anyway if you're calling customer service. And so this is a funny story just because NASA versus SpaceX. Once again, I don't care about space exploration. I'd rather keep my feet on the ground here. And, God made space and all that for us to look at. I'm not really big into space exploration. I don't care if we go to Mars and all of that jazz. Some people love it and they think it's great and whatever. And don't ask me about my thoughts on the moon because we actually want to keep this conversation going. But the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, what are you? You're ladies and gentlemen. That's apparently what you tell me. It's just kind of a funny story here that the astronauts, it's all just, I really figure all this stuff is just professional wrestling. I think it was political reasons. Boeing was having trouble keeping anything in the air. Musk had offered, he's like, I can't do impressions tonight. He's like, I have rockets and I can send the rockets into space to get them. And they're like, nah, we don't need them. It's fine. It's like, okay, whatever, dude. It was political because he offered, they said no, and the astronauts were stuck up there. So was he right? Probably. Do I care? I don't. But it's kind of a funny story to go over just because it's raising the profile of these astronauts who nobody would know about if they didn't engage with Musk. So good for you, buddy. I get not even 15 minutes of fame. What is it, like 35 seconds, 45 seconds of fame? So good for you, man. All right. This is Rick Cast. I'm the aforementioned Rick. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, do all the fun stuff as you do. Leave a comment section wherever you are. Even on Facebook, I got a thumbs up there. If you guys want to leave me a comment, I'm also checking the video there to see if anybody wants to leave me a comment on Facebook as well. Because we're all over, man. We're big time. Speaking of which, big time, the last of Trump's cabinet has finally been confirmed. And that's right. Cash money is in the house. That's so lame.
We have an FBI director, Kash Patel, getting 51 votes in a Senate-wide confirmation vote just a moment ago to 49 no's, which means that 2 Republican senators did not vote for him. For that and more, let's go to senior correspondent Chad Pergram, who's following all the moves on Capitol Hill. Chad?
Good afternoon, John. Well, Bernie Moreno, the Republican senator from Ohio, just read the vote total, 51-49. Mitch McConnell, the former Republican leader who announced his retirement earlier today, he voted yes. Some people thought he might vote no, but there were 2 GOP.
I have a theory on that, and I'll talk about that in a minute.
No's. Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Susan Collins.
What a shock. Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski voted no. In other news, water is wet.
Of Maine, 51-49. They did not need J.D. Vance here to break a tie in this instance. I should note that this is only the second nominee who's gotten more than one GOP no. You had Mitch McConnell, who's voted, being the only no on the Republican side a couple of times here. You have to go back to Pete Hegseth in late January, who got 3 GOP no's: Collins, Murkowski, and McConnell, and Vance had to break the tie to confirm Hegseth as the defense secretary. But he's been confirmed, and now the Senate goes on to the budget debate. This establishes the framework for the president's domestic policy agenda. That's something they'll be getting into in just the next couple of minutes. Lindsey Graham, the Republican senator from South Carolina, who is the chairman of the Budget Committee, speaking right now. And they will have what they call a vote-a-rama on the Senate floor, where they vote and they vote. And did I say they vote? They will be doing this all night long as they set up this framework for the president's budget proposal.
You know, that's a very good point, Crouchy Elder. People usually get mad at Susan Collins, but Susan Collins, Maine is a purple state. You would think because it would vote more like New Hampshire, even though New Hampshire has 2 Democratic senators. But the fact is, you have Maine is 2 totally different countries kind of smashed together. You have Portland and Kennebunkport and the coast, which is Massachusetts or Massholes. And then you have the rest of the state, which is like 5 people and 1,000 bears. So she has to really walk that line on who she can or who she cannot vote for. Lisa Murkowski is only in because of the stupid ranked choice voting system in Alaska. She didn't even win her primary. She didn't win the Republican primary, but she won because of ranked choice voting. That's the only reason she's still there. The people in Alaska got to figure out the whole ranked choice voting system, because that thing is just messing up a really red state, and you're getting bad representation in the form of somebody like Lisa Murkowski. But, you know, Kash has been very bold. He's made the rounds. I've seen him on Timcast a bunch of times. He's been on Glenn Beck, and he makes the circuit. He's very loyal to Trump. He's a former agent. He kind of knows his way around those things. So is this a good one? So this is the last of the big 3 that people were worried about as far as with Trump's cabinet. You had RFK. He made it through, and now he's doing some pretty good things. Like at HHS, they said, hey, guess what? Woman, man, father is a biological male, woman, mother is a biological female. And then they kind of reset that whole thing. They put out another thing saying life begins at conception. So some good stuff out of RFK in the beginning. Now, how's that going to go later on? I don't know. When I open up my refrigerator at midnight tonight to get a pizza, hopefully he's not there waiting in there to choke me out and be like, go back to bed. And so I don't eat it, but we'll see how that goes. But you have to be at least encouraged with somebody like Kash Patel, because you have people like my home state, right? Texas is my adopted home. I love the state of Texas, but there's another flag up here, and that's the state of Rhode Island right here. It's my home. I have to accept it. Yeah, it's full of morons and idiots, but it's still my home. How do I know it's full of morons and idiots? It has this guy as the senator, and listen to this moron pontificate in front of the FBI building today.
What crimes it was that he was concerned about that caused him to plead the Fifth.
Sheldon Whitehouse is the most fake elite you'll ever hear or meet in your life. The guy has no personality. The only reason he made it, and I think Lincoln Chafee was the senator at that point from Rhode Island. Not another stud, but he was better than this idiot. This guy rode the momentum in 2004, the anti-Bush agenda in 2004. And that's how he got into office. And once you get into office, it's really hard to get out. But this guy is the dumbest man. And I don't say this lightly. He is the dumbest man in the Senate with statements like these.
Kash Patel, mark my words, will cause evil in this building behind us, and Republicans who vote for him will rue that day.
So you're telling me I should vote for him? You're threatening me with a good time. Don't vote for this guy because he's going to cause evil. You mean like the FBI never has caused evil? Like it's never hunted down citizens? Like it's never, like 39% of the workforce, whatever that statistic was hunting down January 6ers? That wasn't evil. It was like grandmas and people in wheelchairs, and they were going after them at Black Hawk helicopters. And so The fact is that, he's going to cause evil. All right, well, that's just a scare tactic. Sheldon Whitehouse's biggest senatorial accomplishment is he got a bill passed where you turn down the audio in the commercials. I kid you not. That's his biggest claim to fame. That was his sponsored bill. But yes, Cash Money is now in as the FBI director. So people are very happy about that. And, we'll see how that goes as far as what'll happen. Will the Epstein list be released within 10 days? I'm going to put the odds at that at like 25%. I don't think he's releasing the Epstein list anytime soon. I think it was a fun thing to say when he was on like Timcast and when he was on like the Glenn Beck show and when he was on all these other kinds of things. But when he's in office, they're probably going to slide over the JFK picture and be like, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. Release the Epstein list. You'll be a FBI director for like 4 days. We'll see how that goes. But this is from CNN.com, just to kind of clean this up. Senate voted on Thursday to confirm Kash Patel as the FBI director, installing a staunch loyalist of President Donald Trump and a conservative firebrand at the head of the nation's top law enforcement agency. And you know what his terrible thing was? He said, hey, I want to get the politics out of the FBI, and I actually want to use the FBI to go after actual criminals and not American citizens. He's crazy. What are we going to do? And I actually would like the FBI disbanded because you have the U.S. Marshals who kind of do it's kind of like double redundancy. You have the U.S. Marshals, you don't need the FBI. You could get rid of it and nothing would change. In fact, you would get rid of the 4473, which goes through the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, which is the NCIS, is what you fill out a 4473 for when you buy a gun. So if you got rid of the FBI, you can get rid of the NICS system. Thumbs up from me. But the fact is, you could disband it. But if the FBI went back to going to after people that violate the law and bringing them to justice, that would be nice. I'd like to have law enforcement organizations, and I know this is like a pipe dream, but I'd like to have law enforcement organizations enforce the law and not political agendas. I know that sounds far-fetched, and unfortunately, it seems like no matter what, there will always be politics in there. It's kind of like one of the best things I learned in one of my early history courses is a professor I didn't really like, but he had a banger of a quote. He said, no matter what, your opinion and your bias will always be in a paper or any kind of research or any kind of statement you make, because you're human, and human beings tend to frame things based on their political agendas and their upbringing and all that. So a good history professor, a good FBI director, a good whatever will let you know their political leanings, so you can at least take that in as well and say, okay, well, this guy's coming from a left, he's a lefty, but this is what he's saying, I can filter out, or he's a righty and I can filter that out, and you can kind of go from there. But if Kash Patel's biggest thing is to get the politics out of the FBI, I think that's a step in the right direction. The best step would be getting rid of it, but pipe dream. If I keep the FBI and get rid of the IRS, that's a win. The nomination faced intense scrutiny from Democrats on Capitol Hill, who have warned that Patel is poised to use the position to seek retribution against Trump's perceived political enemies after 4 years of the Biden regime using the DOJ and the FBI in particular to go after their political enemies and weaponizing the ATF to go after their political enemies. Just an example of the FACE Act. You guys don't know this, but in the abortion circles, there's this federal law called the FACE Act. The thing is, you cannot obstruct. You can pray on the sidewalk, you can protest across the street, but you cannot block access to an abortion facility. And there was a guy way back, I forget the man's name, but some abortion activist got in his son's face and he pushed him. The man pushed this guy away from his son. On Sunday, the FBI raided the guy's home with AR-15s and dragged him out in front of his kids. That's what we're talking about with the weaponization of the FBI. So if we can get rid of that kind of stuff, that'd be great. During the Senate confirmation hearing, Patel said there will be, quote unquote, no politicization at the FBI, no retributive actions, and accused Democrats of cherry picking excerpts of old comments, which, not a shock. The role of the FBI director is supposed to be held for a 10-year term to insulate the position from politics, but after winning the White House, Trump made it clear that he wanted then FBI Chief Chris Wray out, leading Wray to resign and paving the way for Patel to be confirmed. Politics, right? Oh, Thank you very much, Mark Hulk or Hook, if I can't say it right. If you've watched my show or if you've listened to me in the past, you know names. They're hard, so I can't really say them. But there you go. That's the name of the gentleman. Dragged out of his house on a Sunday by FBI agents for daring to protect his kid. So that's what we're talking about here. Senate Republicans have now approved a slate of nominations who initially faced questions. RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, which is great because she's kind of insulated over there at as the DNI. Still don't like her, but everybody else, all the thirsty Republican conservative bros are like, oh, we got Tulsi Gabbard, whatever, dude. And if she just stays over there, doesn't do anything, I'd give a thumbs up to that. Just pop your head out and be like, I'm from Hawaii and everything's fine. Yeah, great. Just go away now. But there you go. The last of the big three problematic confirmations have been approved. They're all in their positions. So let's see how the agenda goes forth. I know Kristi Noem has done very well as DHS Barbie, going out there and showing, we're being tough and we're going after people, even though, if anybody else has noticed, the number of actual, deportations have kind of dropped to a point where Trump's getting a little upset that the deportations have kind of leveled off. But I've always told people that if you enforce the laws and you deport a certain amount of people, a lot will self-deport just because they're like, we're not doing this. I'm not going to be around here in case. So I'm a little okay with that. I'd like to see the deportations go back up a little bit, but it is what it is. So there you go. Cash is in. All the nominees have been confirmed. And it really brings us to, what did they have on Matt Gaetz? That's the question. What did they have on Matt Gaetz that was so bad that he could not fight to be the attorney general? I don't like Pam Bondi as the AG. I don't. She's too much of a thirst trap. Yeah, she's doing some stuff here, but she's bad on guns. And, the ATF director is still there. And we're not seeing any real, we saw an executive order on gun control, or on the executive orders that Trump, or that Biden put in. But outside of that, no. I don't want the concealed carry law. I want getting suppressors off the NFA. I want short-barreled rifles off the NFA. I want the NFA completely disbanded, but that's not going to happen. I'd like a lot of these things rolled back, and I'd like more restorations of our God-given rights to keep and bear arms. So, I really wish Matt Gaetz was the AG just because he was a fighter. But the fact of the matter is, they must have had something on him, or he really didn't want to do it. Like, he really wanted to host that OANN, the One American News Network show, like that badly, that he was just like, oh, I'll do it. Oh, sorry, I'm leaving. And now he's hosting a news show. So good for him. By the way, real quick sidebar, Alan Richardson, the guy who plays Reacher, this dude can't shut his face. A while back, he went after the Catholic Church, and I was like, oh, what are you doing? He's talking about pedophilia in the Catholic Church. It's like, do you not know where you work? Do you not know where you work, buddy? When you compare pedophilia in the Catholic Church, or the child abuse scandals, which the Catholic Church has done a heck of a job reforming and getting rid of. And if you actually look at the studies and the statistics, I put a video up on my Tack Talk channel rebuting another guy. And then you compare it to Hollywood. Alan Richardson, stay in your lane and go, lift some weights. But he came out today. He was interviewed in an article from Variety. And apparently he's from the same district that Matt Gaetz represented. And he calls him an a-hole, and he calls him all these other things. He's like, I don't know, I might have to go into politics to stop people like that. Well, you know what, buddy? You don't want people to watch your stuff. Like, Reacher is a conservative show. I don't know who he thinks his audience is. It's not a bunch of blue-haired feminists, but his show has just dropped today. And I was like, maybe I'll watch it after Lent. I'll give it some time to kind of be out there. Maybe I'll watch it after. No, sorry, I won't watch it. And I pretty much, I know you're supposed to separate art from the actor. Can't with him, because the guy's just a first-class jerk off. And I'm sorry if that offends you, but I have to, that's the nicest thing I can say about the guy. And yeah, I know he could squish my head like a bug. I don't care. The guy's he's still a moron. And maybe it's, maybe it's all the soy he eats. I don't know, whatever the case may be. But yeah, Alan Richardson, I was going to do a whole story. Excuse me. I was going to do a whole story on it, but you know, I can fit it in there with the Matt Gaetz stuff. All right, folks, let's get into our third story here on Rickcast. Speaking of Amazon and streaming shows and everything else that's going on with it. Actually, no, we're only on our second story of the day. I thought we were on our third. We're actually only on our second because we're killing it. Here we go from VOA.com, which apparently is a center website according to Ground News Network. But McConnell, the longest serving U.S. Senate leader, is going to retire in early 2027. He's not running for re-election in 2026. And in case you wanted to hear it, here's the old turtle himself retiring today.
They depend in turn on the credibility of America's commitments to friends and the strength of her threats to enemies. In turn, the safety and success of the men and women who volunteered to serve this great
Why is he retired? He's such a young buck. Look at him. He's doing great.
nation in uniform depend on the work we do here to ensure that enemies think twice before challenging them, and those enemies never face a fair fight. Thanks to Ronald Reagan's determination, the work of strengthening America's hard power was well underway when I arrived in the Senate. But since then, we've allowed that power to atrophy. And today, a dangerous world threatens to outpace the work of rebuilding it. So lest any of our colleagues still doubt my intentions for the remainder of my term, I have some unfinished business to attend to.
And it's interesting that he voted to confirm Kash today. Why did he do that? Because he voted no on other candidates or other cabinet members. Why the sudden switch today when this came up? Well, I don't like her, but I actually think she's got a very good point here. And this is from Laura Loomer. Sorry, folks. I know I hate to do it to you, but even a broken clock is right once a day in her case. She is kind of a whack job, but I think she's right on this one. This is why Senate Mitch McConnell voted for Kash Patel today. He coordinated with Daniel Cameron of Kentucky, his handpicked replacement for the U.S. Senate. He didn't want to have blowback on Daniel, who knew McConnell would be announcing his plans because, ironically enough, politics is politics. This guy was ready to go as soon as Mitch McConnell's announcement came out. I'm retiring from the Senate. Oh, yeah, I'm running. It's like, huh? What? Who are you? Well, he's Daniel Cameron, and he's a guy. He's the father. He's the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. From what I hear, he's pretty much McConnell light. He's a McConnell disciple. So you'd be pretty much getting more of the same with somebody like him. In other news, Thomas Massie has said, hey, maybe I'll run for his seat, which would be very interesting. He's also floated the idea of running for governor of Kentucky. Now, being the Federalist I am, I would prefer Thomas Massie in the governor's seat because you could actually affect more change than being a senator or even a member of the House of Representatives. I actually think that obviously you need good people in the Senate, which is impossible. You need good people in the House, which is nearly impossible because it's filled with like Lauren Boebert, Paula, whatever her face is, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and AOC. And then you have like Thomas Massie sitting in the back going, what the hell is everybody doing? You got him in the House and you got Rand Paul in the Senate. And that's like it. And they're both from Kentucky, ironically enough. Kentucky has a pretty solid representation in that regard. But I actually would like Thomas Massie to run for the governor of Kentucky because his political views would be better to protect the people of Kentucky than what he can do in the House. So that's why old Mitch boy, didn't vote against Kash Patel. I actually think it's a pretty solid line of reasoning here. Like I said, Laura Loomer probably found this from somebody who isn't insane and then is trying to pass it off as her own. But anyway, so First elected in 1984. I know term limits. I know George Carlin has the famous bit of garbage in, garbage out. But at the same time, it's like a geriatric home at this point. You have him at 83. You have Nancy Pelosi at 1,000 years old. Dianne Feinstein just died in office last time, a while back. So, I mean, if you got in at 84, you need to be pushed out, 2000, the latest? They say they serve 6-year terms. Four 6-year terms? That's a lot. That's 24 years. Or 3 6-year terms, whatever the case may be. Whatever it is, they cannot be there for this long because they become mentally we saw it, the mental decline. They get entrenched. They become a part of the system. They become more detached from the people who vote for them. And honestly, I'd love the 17th Amendment repealed, period. Because the 17th was direct appointment of direct election of senators. Can we go back to the houses or the states selecting the senators and then limit that to 4 6-year terms, whatever the case may be? This entire thing needs to be changed because a guy cannot get elected in 84 and then outlast pretty much everybody. 7 times. Oh, well, he went there 7 times. So maybe not. Yeah. 4 terms, or let's on this program on Rickcast, let's just say we don't want direct elections of senators. We'd like to go back to the states selecting the senators as per the original constitutional intent of the Senate, which was to represent the state, and the House represents the people. In case you didn't know that, there's a 30-second lesson on the Constitution. McConnell, former Republican Majority Leader, will retire as the longest-serving Senate leader from any party. Not a great title to have. He has led the Republicans since 2007, both as the Majority and Minority Leader before giving up the position to Senator John Thune last year, who is apparently in trouble as well. There's rumors that he's going to get primaried out. That's another state that's a little dangerous because that's a purple state. Kind of a Susan Collins thing there as well. So it is what it is. McConnell's storied political career saw him guide the Senate chamber. I don't care about any of this. I don't care about a storied career. I don't think senators should have storied careers. They should be like, I was a senator. I was selected by my state. I served 3 terms and then I left. I represented the interest of Kentucky or Idaho or Rhode Island or Vermont or California or Alaska. If you had the states picking their senators, Lisa Murkowski would probably not be the senator from Alaska. Susan Collins probably wouldn't be from Maine. So it is what it is. Is it a perfect system? No, it's not perfect because human beings are running it. But in the end, it's better than having this guy run for 7,000 years and then be like, I'm about to die, so I'm going to leave. Well, at least he's not dying in office. So, take for what it's worth. This is Rickcast. I am Rick. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Leave me a comment in the comment section down below on X, on Rumble, on YouTube, on Twitch. Do we have anybody watching on? We got our one Twitch user. Thank you, buddy, for person. I don't know who you are, but thank you for watching. And on Facebook. If you guys want to leave a comment for me, let me know. I am watching those screens as well. And I love all the feedback you guys are giving me. Honestly, you guys make the show so much better than me just talking for however long. Your comments, they give me hope. All right, next story. We're going to move into some more fun, lighthearted stuff towards the end of the program. From Variety.com, in a move that made everybody really sad, James Bond shocker. Amazon MGM gains creative control of the 007 franchise as producer Barbara Broccoli, that's her name, and Michael G. Wilson step back. Amazon MGM Studios is set to take creative control over the Bond franchise, which means James Bond will be a black transgender wheelchair-bound person and the next 007, A Wheel of Time. The shocking announcement, which is sure to shake and indeed stir the industry, I see what they did there, was made Thursday alongside the news that the longtime producers would be stepping back. As per details of the historic agreement, Amazon MGM Studios, Wilson and Broccoli have formed a new joint venture to house the James Bond intellectual property rights. 3 parties remain co-owners of the iconic franchise. The franchise has a weird history of people who own it, don't own it, who has creative control, who doesn't, whatever the case may be. Now, Jeff Bezos actually did something kind of funny on X today. Let me see if I can pull that up, because, you know, that's how we roll here. I kind of just think of things on the fly, and you guys watch me stumble around for 5 minutes. Jeff Bezos, not Bozos. Go back. There he is. Jeff Bezos puts out a tweet saying, hey guys, who should be the next James Bond? And of course, everybody says the one and only Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill should be James Bond. That's it. There really is no other choice for James Bond. It should be Henry Cavill. It should be not Elon Musk. It should be Henry Cavill, not him, not Elba, not Idris Elba, not because he's black, but the man in the intellectual property that is James Bond is white. It's not a negative thing to be like the guy who plays James Bond should be white because he is written as a white person. Once again, Henry Cavill, not Michael B. Jordan. Henry Cavill, not this guy, not that guy. Henry Cavill. That's the only guy that should be James Bond. And anybody who says otherwise is what I like to call stupid. Hey, I like Gerard Butler. I am a Gerard Butler fan. I will watch any of his stupid movies. I love White House. Olympus Has Fallen. Olympus Has Fallen is one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies. I love the fact that the White House gets taken over by a bunch of North Koreans, and the only guy that can save it is Gerard Butler, who single-handedly kills all of them. I mean, come on, it's typical. It's like old school 80s action stuff. That's great. Another one that's underrated is the movie Greenland. It came out in 2020. It was supposed to come out, but then, you know, the thing happened. But, you know, I love Gerard Butler. I would be actually, I would be in favor. Law Abiding Citizen. If you haven't seen Law Abiding Citizen, make some time this weekend to watch it. Fantastic. The ending's a little bad, but the rest of the movie is so good. I love Law Abiding Citizen. And so that's fine. And I would be fine with Gerard Butler being James Bond. Because he's just not suave enough to be James Bond, but I think it would be fantastic. But this is something that, you know, people in the industry are going to watch, because people are even saying, is the James Bond franchise done? They've had like 20 plus films. Can you do James Bond in the year 2025, 2026? I think you can, but that would require them casting somebody like Henry Cavill and letting him be essentially rebooting it back to having him be like a Sean Connery type of James Bond. That's the only way to do this. Sean Connery, just AI Sean Connery back into all of them, right? Just Sean Connery back in just AI. I would do that too. I would take AI. AI James Bond as Sean Connery. Sign me up, dude. That would be fantastic. I would all day and twice on Sunday. So it goes into public domain in 2035. There's a bunch of stuff that's going into public domain in the next 10 years. I know Batman, the original Batman, not like now Batman, but the original DC Detective Comics, he goes public domain. Superman, not now Superman, the Superman that can jump, you know, leap tall buildings in a single bound. He goes into public domain. I think Mickey Mouse hits the public domain in the next 2 years, because Disney wasn't allowed to retain him, but not modern Mickey, Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse. So if you want to make a Steamboat Willie, yeah, tons of Disney stuff is going into the public domain soon. So you actually might get some creative types actually doing some stuff with this intellectual property that might be more entertaining. And now we live in a time where people can make decent films with technology, phones, Adobe, you know, and all of the things to do it. Oh, dude, the Winnie the Pooh stuff. Have you seen it? Like, they're all slasher movies. They have a Winnie the Pooh slasher movie. They have a Bambi slasher movie. They have a Tinkerbell. It's kind of funny. I haven't seen any of them, but I think it's a funny use. Yeah. So you could bring Mickey Mouse back to before he was you know, woke. James Bond in space or versus zombies. Yeah, why not? Why not? If he's in public domain, just have fun with him, right? James Bond versus a zombie apocalypse. I think that would be fantastic. Anything better than the last James Bond. And if James Bond goes into the public domain, you will not get the terrible James Bond, and I will die on this hill. I will die on this guy right here was the worst Bond, period. End of story. End of story. Worse. Top three: Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan, Timothy Dalton. Those are the three best Bonds ever. And then the guy who played it the longest, he wasn't bad. His films were really bad at the end. This guy was awful. Daniel Craig is such a feminist and said, "Oh, I'm so sad. I'm James Bond. I have a life where I get paid. I go around the world and I get to do things and hot women want to sleep with me. Oh, I'm so proud." What a loser. Come on, dude. You're James Bond. You're literally James Bond. That's like the archetype. And he just played him in such a terrible crybaby way. No. Timothy Dalton was underrated. Timothy Dalton didn't get enough credit. He only got 2 movies, I think, or 3. He could have been a lot better in his James Bond if he had more time. He also has the best introduction in his first Bond film. I really do. I'm a big fan of Timothy Dalton's Bond. Of course, Sean Connery is the best. Pierce Brosnan is the second best, because if you gave the amount of support that Daniel Craig got, Daniel Craig got the studio behind him. They had serious directors, and they were like, we're going to reboot and make a good franchise. Pierce Brosnan had one good film, which was GoldenEye. GoldenEye was fantastic. And so I'm saying it's Connery, then Brosnan, and then Timothy Dalton. He's third. Those two are first and second. If Pierce Brosnan got the support and the writing and the directing that Craig got, you could have had 7 or 8 amazing Bond films. But no, they gave it to this clown, this feminist clown, and he made it a mockery. He had to sit in the back while the strong black woman made him like a fool and all this other whatever. What a loser. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, because we know Amazon has a great track record with intellectual property. So, I mean, yes, we'll see. But this is kind of shocking, because it's you're only going to have Disney, Amazon, Apple's still out there because they have money. They're going to be your main streaming services, right? And then Netflix, that'll be the fourth one. Those would be your major studios, and everybody else, Paramount, Sony, all these other, Universal actually might buy Warner Brothers this year. That was the plan originally. Universal will probably still be around as well. So I think there's only 6 now. There'll be 5 major studios once the dust settles, because streaming has absolutely decimated all of them. Because like outside of Mission Impossible, Paramount's been trying to sell to Skydance or whoever will buy them for the last 4 or 5 years. They're like, please, somebody buy us, because we can't make money. So this is just another eventuality in that regard. And apparently there's a movie out that I'm going to watch this weekend called The Gorge, with Miles Teller and that weird Anna Taylor-Joy lady who's got she's got crazy eyes. Apparently this film's very good. My buddy Sebastian, up in Dallas, he actually narrated my book. My audiobook is coming out in the next couple of weeks. He says it's great. He's a traditional Catholic. Really, really like a good, clean movie to watch, kind of like an old school film. So if you're looking for a movie recommendation this weekend, watch The Gorge on Apple TV Plus if you have it, because apparently it's actually really good. Yeah, it's going to be like everything else. It's going to be consolidation till there's just like 3 with a bunch of different studios, like New Lines, Lionsgate, and New Lines. They're all going to get shut down and bought out, because they're all just waiting to. Like Fox. Fox is gone. Now it's a subsidiary of Disney. They're all just kind of waiting to be bought so somebody else can do the things and just put everything on streaming that nobody will watch. But interesting story thereof. Let me know who you would cast as James Bond in the comment section down below. Should be Henry Cavill. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rick Cast. I am the aforementioned Rick. Once again, going over an hour. I'm always like, this show is going to be about 45 minutes to an hour. Never is. I just talk way too much. And I just talk to myself, which apparently is a skill. So like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, do all the fun stuff to help this show grow. You guys are the reason this show works. Please let me know what you're thinking in the comment section on all platforms. so we can continue this show as it's going. Last one. I know everybody's going to love this topic, but I just kind of found it funny. So it's not going to be long, but I think it's kind of hysterical. And Tesla. The Tesla Cybertruck, the Matchbox car, the most divisive car since the Etzel, or the Pontiac Aztek, which, by the way, the Pontiac Aztek was like 10 years ahead of its time. If it was released today, people would go stupid over it. But apparently it was, released way too early. But because if the Tesla Cybertruck can sell, the Pontiac Aztek would have sold like gangbusters. But anyway, the Tesla Cybertruck crash test scores impressive results for driver safety, which I ask, how can a steel box not test well? Was the Pontiac Aztek meant to be electric? I mean, it makes sense. Like I said, if the Pontiac Aztek was released today as an electric car, the thing probably would have saved Pontiac. Unfortunately, the last Pontiac GTO, which is super fast, by the way, just looks like a pregnant it looked like a pregnant Dodge Neon. That's why it didn't do well. But that last GTO they put out, thing had a monster engine. If you can find one nowadays, that's got an impressive V8. It's actually super fast. But they ruined it because they made it look like a pregnant Neon. Anyway, speaking of ugly cars that I dig, I dig unique looking cars. And I think one of the reasons that the Cybertruck actually stands out today is because so it's you like the look of that. I do, Steph. I do. And I'll tell you why right now. Most cars today are boring. They are. Most cars look the same. They look boring. They all look like they were rolled off the same assembly line. They all have very soft features. Because remember, old school muscle cars, even up until the 80s, even into the 90s, each automaker, GM, Ford, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, they all had a distinct style. And people like to, if you're going to spend this kind of money on a vehicle, you want it to be something of reflective. You want it to stand out. You don't want it to be another. You want to lose your car in the parking lot because it looks like the eight. It's bad when a BMW, which is junk, by the way, only jerks drive BMWs. Another hot take for the night. When a BMW looks like a Toyota Camry from afar, you've lost the plot. Remember when the Ford, what was it? Not the Focus. It replaced the Taurus, and it starts with an F because it was the sedan, whatever it is. It was made to look like an Aston Martin. That was their big thing. Oh, it looks like an Aston Martin. When Aston Martin's like, yeah, great. Now my car looks like a Ford, whatever it is. Ford, somebody will know in the comment section. What was the Ford that replaced the Taurus? It's in NASCAR. I forget what it is. That's how impactful it is on me. Maybe James Bond will drive a Camry in the next movie. Maybe he will. Because they all look the same at this point. And there's nothing distinctive about them. So that's why I think people like the Cybertruck. Because it's ugly, but it's distinctive. And Fusion, thank you, the Ford Fusion. When the Ford Fusion came out, they're like, oh, it looks like an Aston Martin. And, it's not. By the way, Aston Martins aren't great either because they were kind of made by Ford for a while. But the Ford Fusion comes out and it looks the same as an Aston Martin. The Toyota Camry looks the same as a BMW. They all look the same. It's boring. The car market is boring. Now, is that because of the fact that the automakers had to increase their miles per gallon? So they had to make them all more streamlined and all this other kind of stuff. I mean, cars that I loved when I was growing up. I love the Honda Element. I love the Scion XB. If it's funky, I loved it. It was a funky looking car. I dug it, and I still do. I drive a Honda Fit because it was $6,000 after I lost my truck. And people who used to listen to my radio show, I loved and I drove for 10 solid years a Honda Ridgeline, which was a tank of a truck, by the way. That thing, I put that thing through the paces. My 2012 Honda Ridgeline, man, I love that truck to death. It did everything I needed it to do, and it was ugly as sin. Whatever, still loved it. But I think that's the appeal of the Cybertruck. And while Elon Musk and Tesla fanatics have long praised the Cybertruck, even as others loudly mock the vehicle, another group is now giving the truck its kudos. Where's crotchety? What about the Hummer? Hummers are kind of the new one or the old one? The old one, like the first generation Hummers, the ones that were pretty much the military vehicles that they kind of spiced up. Yeah, those are pretty cool. The H2, ugly. The H3, even dumber. Now, there's a point where they're ugly, and then there's a point where they're stupid. Like the H2 and the H3 were just dumb vehicles. The H2 was for the soccer mom that hated her husband and just wanted to be aggressive at people in the parking lot at Target. The H3 was for guys who couldn't make up their mind whether they wanted a truck or an aggressive looking vehicle. But Hummers are the first generation Hummer's great. The electric Hummer, there's somebody who in my town that has the electric Hummer. It is legitimately, folks, and I'm not making it is the dumbest vehicle I've ever seen in my life. And I'm a guy who likes the Cybertruck. It's just the stupidest thing. It's an off-roading electric vehicle. That's great when I'm at 8, when I'm climbing up a mountain and the thing just dies. Same thing with a Cybertruck. I would not take a Cybertruck, off-roading. It's stupid. You don't take an electric truck. The crazy thing is the Mach-E's, they're not making them anymore because there are so many of them on the Ford lots because people are like, this is not a Mustang. It's an ugly like Ford Escort that you slapped a Mustang badge on. It was a terrible idea. They sullied the name of the Mustang. By the way, another car that I liked when I was growing up, and I still do, is the Ford. They only made like 600 of them. It's the 2000 Ford Mustang Cobra R. If you look it up, the Ford Mustang Cobra R in 2000, it was amazing because it was a race car that they put on streets. The torque to horsepower was equal. It was 400 horse and 400 pounds of feet torque, which if you actually know anything about cars, it's incredible. I love that thing. That thing is, I would drive that today if I could. But back to the Cybertruck. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration published highly anticipated results of its first Cybertruck crash test this week, giving the car a 5-star overall safety rating, the safest rating a vehicle can earn. Not knowing, I don't know if they actually put a bomb in it. Maybe they're like, oh, well, it survived in Las Vegas. We'll factor that in as well. The outcome is shocking for some, given that the bulky, angular truck has been tied to multiple fire fatalities. That's because it's an electric car. Once an electric car gets on fire, everybody just gets out of the way because that sucker's just going to be on fire until it decides to go out. You can't put it out with water. People are like, oh, no, you don't put water on an electric fire. I know we've all seen the TikTok videos of the e-thoughts who are cooking and they're like, it's a fire, and they put water on it. It's the dumbest thing imaginable. I can't believe people still even do that. But and people have shared safety concerns that the vehicle could hurt pedestrians. That's not my fault if you can't get out of the way, sucker, and damage other vehicles. Once again, don't hit me and then we'll be fine. Even with the 5-star rating, the test doesn't quash worries about pedestrian safety. I ain't worried about pedestrians because guess what? If you're in the road, that's your fault. People who walk in the road, people who run in the road, and bikers are 3 people that are just enemies of society. Bikers, if you are a biker, trigger warning, I don't like you. Because you people act like you own the road. Well, no, you're in the way. You're going 5 miles an hour up a hill. Get on the sidewalk. People who run in the road, get on the sidewalk. That's why it's there. Do not block my lane while I'm trying to drive. So I don't care about hurting pedestrians because most people are too stupid to get out of the way anyway. So that's not a concern of mine. And that shouldn't be factored into the test. The results arrived after the government announced an update to its safety rating program last year to include an assessment on apparently all steel vehicles that evaluated the risk to pedestrians being hit from the front of vehicles. That's because, have you ever seen these things on Twitter or X or whatever the case, where people are like, they put their kid in front of like a truck and they're going, you can't see my child over the hood of your truck. Why is your child in the street? Why is your child playing in traffic? Why is that my problem that you can't keep your kid from running in the road? Oh, I've been to Europe twice, actually 3 times. Here's the thing about European drivers. They actually know how to drive a little bit better than Americans. Like if you've ever been in Rome, they actually know how to go every other car when they merge. Unlike Americans who are like, get out of the way. You get in when you can. People in Europe actually know how to merge. And they actually know how to navigate traffic circles, which are 100% safer than stoplights. I know you all hate traffic circles or roundabouts, but statistically, they're safer than stoplights, because if somebody runs into a roundabout, you're more likely to hit it on the side where the car is ready to be hit than head on. So yeah, I've gone to Switzerland once. I've been to Rome twice. The drivers over there are actually a little better drivers when it comes to like merging and stuff like that than Americans, who are, like, forget you, man, I'm getting in this lane. The worst thing is when you have 18 wheelers on the highway and they're in the right lane as I'm trying to get on. It's like, bro, get out of the way. Obviously, I think I'll retitle this segment Richard Rants About Driving. That aside, Tesla is no stranger to 5-star ratings. Don't care about it. Interesting enough, I thought it was kind of a funny thing. He gave me an excuse to talk about ugly cars and automobiles at the end of the show, which is kind of fun for me because it's not politics. And I don't want this show to be 100% about politics, because politics is boring and depressing. And I don't want this show to be boring and depressing. I want it to be fun and talk about stupid things like, the bulletproof, bomb-proof Cybertruck apparently got 5 stars, which shocks nobody, because unless it gets hit by an 18-wheeler, and even in that case, depending on it, it might not be that bad. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So that's it for this episode of Rickcast. I gave you 16 extra minutes. I spoil you people, but I love hanging out with you guys. Thank you so much. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell to keep this show rolling. I appreciate you taking your time, because there was a lot of options tonight to watch news or just entertain yourself. And I thank you for hanging out with me. I will talk to you all tomorrow on Friday, the 21st of February. God bless. And until that day comes, free Dexter Taylor.